Today's topic is Internet Protocol, but before going to discuss about network protocol, I will recap the contents discussed in previous lecture, which is prerequisite in the next topic. As I explained you about TCP/IP reference model, in which you have seen the TCP/IP composed up of four layers. Each layer have its own set of protocols. Now you must have proper knowledge about the concept of protocol as I explained in the previous video. Protocols are some set of rules which governs the communication, control the communication. Okay. Now somebody asks you if protocols are some set of rules, then can you explain some rules? Yes. Suppose two persons want to converse each other, they must agreed on which language they will use, who will talk first, how to address the others by naming or by salutation, and how to acknowledge that the information is understood, and how to close the conversation. These are some set of rules which may be used in human conversation. The same principle used in computer communication also. Like what type of cable or transmission media used to connect to various hosts on the network, and how is data transmitted on the transmission media, and how do the host on the network know when to transmit data, and how does each host know how much data can be transmitted at a time, and how can host using different operating system to communicate. So I think now you have got the various rules which are used during communication. Then I discuss about the need of layering, because of it is very difficult to deal with whole complex set of various networking functions. So a whole complex set of rules are divided into various smaller and manageable groups, and these smaller groups of networking functions are called layers. These layers provide modularity in TCP/IP model. It enhances the understandability to users. Otherwise, error detection and understanding the process of communication become more difficult. Then I have given the introduction of network access layer and associated protocols also. I discussed the various functions performed by internet layer, and then I explained the concept of IP address. IP addresses are 32-bit addresses, and IP address in the current version of the protocol is 32-bit binary address that uniquely and universally define the connection of a host or a router to the internet. IP addresses are unique. They are unique in the sense that each address defines one and only one connection on the internet. Two devices on the internet can never have the same address at the same time. However, if a device has two connections to the internet via two internet, it has two IP addresses. The IP address are universal in the sense that the addressing system must be accepted by any host that want to be connected to the internet. There are two common notations to show the IP addresses, that is binary notation and dotted decimal notations. Okay. So now I think you must have idea about the IP addresses, and finally I explained the classes of IP addresses and its range, the utility in the various domains. As we know, the IP addresses classified in basically five classes as A, B, C, D and E. Classes like A, B, C are divided into net ID and host ID, but class D and E not divided in net ID and host ID. The first octet in class A is net ID and the last three octet are host ID. In the class B address, the first two octet assigned as net ID and last two octet assigned as host ID. But in class C, IP addresses, the first three octet assigned as net ID and last octet is assigned as the host ID. The class D IP addresses are used for multicasting, and the class E IP addresses are reserved for future use. Each class have its own purposes also. Like class A addresses used for few large organizations, and class B addresses used for medium-sized organization, and class C addresses are used for small organizations. And I already told you that the class D addresses are used for multicasting. Multicasting means कि suppose you want to send your message to a particular group at the same time, then you will use multicasting, and class D addresses are used for this purpose. And class E does not divided into net ID and host ID, and they are reserved for future use. Now I discuss about Internet Protocol and datagram and its various components. So Internet Protocol, I have discussed already about Internet Protocol. Internet Protocol were first developed in mid 1970 when the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency DARPA becomes interested in establishing a packet switch network that would facilitate communication between dissimilar computer systems at research institutions. The Internet Protocol is a network layer protocol that contains addressing information and some control information that enables packet to be routed. IP is documented in RFC 791 and is the primary network layer protocol in the TCP/IP protocol suite. Along with the transmission control protocol, IP represents the heart of the Internet protocols, that is TCP/IP. IP has two primary responsibilities: providing connectionless, best effort delivery of datagram through the internet network, and providing fragmentation and reassembly of datagram to support data links with different maximum transmission unit size. Now I will discuss IP header. IP header, as you see in the slide, this is the picture of IP header. It contains the various fields. The IP datagram, it consists of a header part and a data part. The IP header is 632 bits words in length, that is 24 bytes total. When all the optional fields are included in the header, the shortest header allowed by IP uses 5 words, that is 20 bytes total. To understand all the fields in the header, it is useful to remember that IP has no hardware dependence but must account for all versions of IP softwares it can encounter. The IP header layout as shown in the slide. Now I examine all the fields in proper way. First I will discuss about version number. This is a 4-bit field that contains the IP version number the protocol software is using. The version number is required so that receiving IP software knows how to decode the rest of the header, which changes with each new release of the IP standard. The most widely used version is 4, although several systems are now testing version 6. The internet and most LANs do not support IP version 6 at present. Part of the protocol definition stipulates that the receiving software must first check the version number of incoming datagrams before proceeding to analyze the rest of the header and encapsulated data. If the software cannot handle the version used to build the datagram, the receiving machine's IP layer rejects the datagram and ignores the content completely. Now the next field is header length. This 4-bit fields reflects the total length of the IP header built by the sending machine. It is specified in 32-bit words. The shortest header is 5 words, that is 20 bytes. But the use of optional field can increase the header size to its maximum of 6 words, that is 24 bytes. The properly decode the header, IP must know when the header ends and the data begins, which is why this field is included. There is no start of data marker to show where the data in the datagram begins. Instead, the header length is used to compute of an offset from the start of the IP header to give the start of the data block. Type of service. The 8-bit, that is 1 octet service type field instruct IP how to process the datagram properly. The fields 8-bit are read as assigned in you can see in the slide, which shows the layout of the service type fields inside the layer IP header. You can see in the slide. The first 3 bits indicate the datagram's precedence with a value from 0 through 7. The higher the number, the more important the datagram, and in theory at least, the faster the datagram should be routed to its destination. In practice, although most implementation of TCP/IP and practically all hardware that uses TCP/IP, the next 3 bits are 1-bit flag that control the delay, throughput and reliability of the datagram. If the bits is set to 0, the setting is normal. A bit set to 1 implies low delay, high throughput and high reliability for the respective flags. The last 2 bits of the fields are not used. Most of these bits are ignored by current IP implementations, and all datagrams are treated with the same delay, throughput and reliability setting. For most purposes, the values of all the bits in the service type field are set to 0 because differences in precedence, delay, throughput and reliability between machines are virtually non-existent unless a special network has been established. Although these flags would be useful in establishing the best routing method for a datagram, no currently available Unix-based IP system bother to evaluate the bits in these fields, although it is conceivable that the code could be modified for high security or high reliability network. Total length. Total length or packet datagram length. This field gives the total length of datagram including the header in octets. The length of the data area itself can be composed by subtracting the header length from this value. The size of the total datagram length field is 16 bits, hence the 65,535 bytes are the maximum length of a datagram, including the header. This field is used to determine the length value to be passed to the transport protocol to set the total packet's length. Next field is identification. This field holds a number that is a unique identifier created by the sending node. This number is required when reassembling fragmented messages, ensuring that the fragments of one message are not intermixed with others. Each chunk of data received by the IP layer from a higher protocol layer is assigned one of these identification numbers when the data arrives. If a datagram is fragmented, each fragment has the same identification number. Next field is flag. The flags field is a 3-bit field, the first bit of which is left unused. Actually, it is ignored by the protocol and usually has no value written to it. The remaining 2 bits are dedicated to flags called DF. DF means don't fragments, and MF. MF means more fragments, which control the handling of the datagram when fragmentation is desirable. If the DF flag is set to 1, the datagram cannot be fragmented under any circumstances. If the current IP layer software cannot send the datagram to another machine without fragmenting it, and this bit is set to 1, the datagram is discarded and an error message is sent back to the sending device. If the MF, that is more fragment flag, is set to 1, if the more fragment flag set is to 1, the current datagram is followed by more fragments, sometimes called subpackets, which must be reassembled to recreate the full messages. The last fragments that is sent as a part of a larger message has its MF flag set to 0, that is off, so that the receiving device knows when to stop waiting for datagrams. Because the order of fragments arrival might not correspond to the order in which they were sent, the MF flag is used to conjunction with the fragments offset field to indicate to the receiving machine the full extent of the message. Next one is fragment offset. If the MF flag bit set to 1, indicating fragmentation of a larger datagram, the fragment offset contains the position of the fragments contained in the complete message with the current datagram. This enables IP to reassemble fragmented packets in the proper order. Offsets are always given relative to the beginning of message. This is a 13-bit fields, so offset are calculated in units of 8 bytes, corresponding to the maximum packet length 65,535 bytes, using the identification number to indicate which message a receiving datagram belongs to. The IP layer on a receiving machine can then use the fragment offset to reassemble the entire message. Time to live, the very most important field in the IP header. This field gives the amount of time in maximum number of hops that a datagram can remain on the network before it is discarded. This is set by the sending node when the datagram is assembled. Usually the TTL field is set to 15 or 30 hops. The TCP/IP standard stipulates that the TTL field must be decreased by at least 1 hop for each node that processes the packet, even if the processing time is less. Also, when a datagram is received by a gateway, the arrival time is tagged so that if the datagram must wait to be processed, that time counts against its TTL. Hence, if a gateway is particularly overloaded and can't get to the datagram in short order, the TTL timer can expire while awaiting processing and the datagram is abandoned. If the TTL field reaches 0, the datagram must be discarded by the current node, but a message is sent back to the sending machine when the packet is dropped. The sending machine can then resend the datagram. The rules governing the TTL fields are designed to prevent IP packets from endlessly circulating through networks. Protocol. This field holds the identification number of the protocol to which the packet is to be handed. The numbers are defined by the Network Information Center, which governs the Internet. There are currently about 50 protocols defined and assigned a transport protocol numbers. Next one is header checksum. The number in this field of the IP header is a checksum for the protocol header field, but not the data field, to enable faster processing. Because the time to live fields is decremented at each node, the checksum also changes with every machine the datagram passes through. The checksum algorithm takes the ones complement of the 16-bit sum of all 16-bit words. This is a fast, efficient algorithm, but it misses some unusual corruption circumstances, such as a loss of an entire 16-bit word that contains only zeros. However, because the data checksums used by both TCP/IP and UDP covers the entire packet, these type of errors usually can be caught as the packet is assembled for the network transport. Now we'll discuss about source address and destination address. You all know these source addresses and destination addresses are in the form of IP addresses. These fields contain the 32-bit IP addresses of the sending and destination devices. These fields are established when the datagram is created and are not altered during the routing, as we have discussed later uh, as a human analogy, where we write the source and destination means sender address and receiver address on the envelope. Option field. The option field is optional, composed of several codes of variable length. If more than one option is used in the datagram, the option appears consecutively in the IP header. All the options are controlled by a byte that is usually divided into three fields. A 1 bit copy flag, a 2 bits option class, and a 5 bits option number. The copy flag is used to stipulate how the option is handled when fragmentation is necessary in a gateway. When the bits is set to 0, the option should be copied to the first datagram but not subsequent ones. If the bit is set to 1, the option is copied to all the datagrams. The option class and option number indicate the type of option and its particular value. At present, there are only two option classes set, with only 2 bits to work with. In the field, a maximum of 4 options could be set. When the value is 0, the option applies to datagram or network control. A value of 2 means the option is for debugging or administration purpose. Value of 1 and 3 are unused. Currently supported values for the option classes and numbers are shown in the slide. Of most interest to you are options that enables the routing and timestamps to be recorded. These are used to provide a record of datagrams passage across the internet work, which can be useful for diagnostic purpose. Both these options add information to a list contained within a datagram. The timestamp has an interesting format. It is expressed in milliseconds since midnight universal time. Unfortunately, because most systems have widely differing time setting, even when corrected to universal time, the timestamp should be treated with more than a little suspicious. There are two kinds of routing indicated within the option field: loose and strict. Loose routing provides a series of IP addresses that the machine must pass through, but it enables any route to be used to get to each of these addresses, usually gateway. Strict routing enables no deviations from the specified route. If the route can't be followed, the datagram is abandoned. Strict routing is frequently used for testing routes but rarely for transmission of user datagram because of the higher chance of the datagram being lost or abandoned. And the last field is padding. The content of the padding area depends on the options selected. The padding is usually used to ensure that the datagram header is a round number of bytes. Now I will discuss IP routing. An important function of IP layer is IP routing. It provides the basic mechanism for routers to interconnect different physical networks. This means that an internet host can function as a normal host and a router simultaneously. A basic router of this type is referred to as router with partial routing information. because the router only has information about four kinds of destinations. Number one, hosts which are directly attached to one of the physical networks to which the router is attached. Next, hosts are networks for which the router has been given explicit definition. Hosts are networks for which the router has received an ICMP redirect message. And last one is a default destination for everything else. The last two items allow the basic routers begin with a very limited amount of information and to increase its information because a more sophisticated router will issue an ICMP redirect message if it receives a datagram and it knows of a better router on the same network for the sender to use. This process is repeated each time a basic router of this type is restarted. Additional protocols are needed to implement a full function router that can exchange information with other routers in remote network. Such routers are essential except in small networks. The routing protocols evolve in different phases. There are some references you can see in the slide. That is RFC 1074. I already explained you RFC means request for comments. These are various phases of development of routing protocols. Now I will discuss routing algorithms. First one is distance vector algorithm. The term vector distance refers to a class of algorithm that gateways use to update routing information. Each router begins with a set of routers of those networks or subnet to which it is directly attached and possibly some additional routers to other networks or hosts. If the network topology is such that the routing protocol will be unable to produce the desired routing correctly, this list is kept in a routing table where each entry identifies a destination network or host and give the distance to that network. The distance is called a metric and is typically measured in hops. Periodically, each router sends a copy of its routing table and any other router it can reach directly. When a report arrives at router V from router A, B examines the set of destinations it receives and the distance to each. B will update its routing table if A knows a shorter way to reach a destination. A list destination that B does not have in its table. A's distance to a destination already routed through A from B has changed. This kind of algorithm is easy to implement, but it has a number of disadvantages also. When routes change rapidly, that is, a new connection appears or an old one fails, the routing topology may not stabilize to match the changed network topology because information propagates slowly from one router to another, and while it is propagating, some routers will have incorrect routing information. Another disadvantage is that each router has to send a copy of its entire routing table to every neighbor at regular intervals. Of course, one can use longer interval to reduce the network load, but that introduces problem related to how well the network respond to change in topology. Vector distance algorithm using hop counts as a metric does not take amount of link speed or reliability. Such an algorithm will use a path with hop count that crosses two slow speed lines instead of using a path with hop count 3 that crosses 3 token rings and may be substantially faster. The most difficult task in a distance vector algorithm is to prevent instability. Different solutions are available. Solution number 1 is count to infinity. Let us choose a value of 16 to represent infinity. Suppose a network become inaccessible all the immediately neighboring routers timeout and set the metric to that network to 16. We can consider that all the neighboring routers have a piece of hardware that connects them to the vanished network with a cost of 16. Since that is the only connection to vanished network, all the other routers in the system will converge to a new routes that go through one of those routers with a direct but unavailable connection. One convergence has happened, all the routers will have matrix of 16 for the vanished network. Since 16 indicates infinity, all routers then regards the network as unreachable. Shortest path algorithms. The growth in networking over the past few years has pushed the correctly available interior gateway protocols. Interior gateway protocols, I think you all must have learned in the networking classes, the previous semesters, which uses distance vector algorithm past their limit. The primary alternative to vector distance schemes is a class of protocol known as link state shortest path. First, the important features of these routing protocols are a set of physical networks is divided into a number of areas. All routers within an area have an identical database. Each router database describes the complete topology, which routers are connected to which networks of the routing domain. The topology of an area is represented with a database called a link state database describing all of the links that each of the routers in the area has. Each router uses its database to derive the set of optimum path to all destinations from which it builds its routing table. The algorithm used to determine the optimum path is called a shortest path first algorithm. In general, link state protocol works as follows. Each router periodically sends out a description of its connection to its neighbors if they are connected to the same network. The description called a link state advertisement includes the configured cost of the connection. The link state algorithm is flooded throughout the router's domain. Each router in the domain maintains an identical synchronized copy of a database composed of this link state information. This database describes both the topology of a router's domain and routes to network outside of the domain, such as routes to network in other autonomous systems. Each router runs an algorithm on its topological database, resulting in shortest path tree. This shortest path tree contains the shortest path to every router and network the gateway can reach. From the shortest path tree, the cost to the destination and the next hop to forward a datagram is used to build a router's routing table. Link state protocol, in comparison with vector distance protocol, send out updates when there is a news and may send out regular updates as a way of ensuring neighbors routers that a connection is still active. More importantly, the information exchange is the state of router's link, not the contents of the routing table. This means that link state algorithms use fewer network resources than their vector distance counterparts, particularly when the routing is complex or the autonomous system is large. They are, however, compute intensive. In return, user get faster response to network event, faster route convergence, and access to more advanced network services. So I have explained a lot about internet layer and its protocol, its addressing mechanism, datagram, and IP headers. The various fields of IP headers are specific for specific use, and you all must go through the contents very seriously. And finally, I have discussed about the routing and routing protocols and various routing algorithms like distance vector and shortest path routing algorithm. Routing algorithms play important role during moving of data. Router decide the best path for a particular packets. When the data packets starts moving from source, it may have number of paths existed from the source to destination. Therefore, here the router as a hardware as well as software device comes into the picture, which identify the best route using suitable routing algorithm. Now I advise all students to watch and listen the videos at least twice to clear the concept of the particular topic. Thank you.